Hello, and my name is Pete Rushmer, and I'm your host today of A Half Dozen Things podcast. A Half Dozen Things is a podcast for business owners just like you. Whether you're an underdog hungry for success, or you're already smashing it but want to continue to level up, we are here each week for you to get insight and learning from the very best in the business. No fluff, no BS, and no self-proclaimed gurus talking about how easy business or life is. Hello and welcome to A Half Dozen Things podcast. In today's short RUSHcast, I'm going to be talking about the proposed changes to driver licensing that have been brought in sort of early in September or have been suggested early September. Today I'm recording this on the 15th of September and it's due to go out this Friday on the podcast. And last week we heard certain suggestions from the government around the changes to driver licensing to enable us to reduce the challenge faced by the HGV driver shortage. The government continue to be keen to train up people who are based in the UK rather than opening up HGV driver roles as part of a authorised EU people coming into the UK to carry out that role. So what is it that they're looking to do? The first thing that you'll have heard about is allowing car drivers. So the first change, which is coming, and that is approved, that's going to be coming in the next couple of weeks. And the first change is around allowing car drivers to tow a trailer without the need for an additional test. So what this means is drivers who pass their car driving test after January 1997, they're going to be able to tow a trailer up to 3.5 tons. The total maximum authorised weight, authorised mass for car and trailer must not exceed 7 tons. And those who pass their test prior to January 1997 actually already have that entitlement, and it's called B and E on your driving licence. So those that have passed their test since 97 are going to be automatically authorised to do that. Now, that's an interesting decision, but the purpose behind that is that it frees up testers to be able to test for HGV rather than worrying about car and trailer testing, which tends to be for more leisure purposes, and it is obviously deemed to be a lower risk than HGV. The second change they're looking at doing is considering, and these are considerations at the moment, is removing the staging requirements for license acquisition. So essentially you have what's called a category C license, which means that you're able to drive a rigid HGV. And then you have a category C and E, which is where you're able to drive a truck with a trailer. And this means that essentially what they're suggesting is that they're going to remove the current staging process. So historically what you'd need to do is pass your category C, which is also known when people talk about class 2 drivers. Rigid only is class 2 or class C on your driving license. And then the E element is the trailer. So what that means is you'd take your test for class 2, and then you'd be able to go and do your class 1 or C and E, as it's also known. And what the suggestion is that essentially a car driver will be able to apply for a provisional license for both the C and CE entitlement at the same time, and then they can choose to take the CE test first. And if they decide to go straight to articulated truck and pass, then they'll have C and CE, which is an interesting suggestion. And then the other suggestion that's being made is that actually they're considering alternative arrangements for how they conduct the reversing manoeuvres part of the test. And the proposed change allows the reversing part of the test to be conducted and assessed by a third party, which also frees up time for the examiners to be able to add more tests to their daily schedule. And the third party will conduct the trailer and coupling and uncoupling assessment. What that looks like, we're not 100% sure yet, and we're not sure that it's certainly going to be brought in, but at the moment it's on a 3-month consultation period. It's going to be interesting to see what happens, but certainly we do know that the car element of pulling a trailer, which is the B and E element, we know that that's going ahead. That's happening in the next couple of weeks. It's interesting that car drivers who passed their test prior to 1997 would have had that automatically, and then they decided to bring it in the interest of road safety. So it's interesting that the decisions have been made to reverse that, to be able to open capacity for testing for HGVs. However, the changes from an HGV point of view, they are at consultation at the moment. We're not 100%, or at the stage of recording this, we're not sure, but I will update you in due course. I think it's interesting how the approach has been taken to the HGV driver shortage from a road safety point of view. It's interesting that we've had relaxation in driver's hours rules. Now, driver's hours rules are there, and drivers will face usually a penalty if they get those driver's hours wrong, and they're there for two reasons, and that is in the interests of road safety, and the other is in fair competition. Now, if the driver's hours change across the board, then the fair competition element is universal anyway. But it's interesting that there's a choice been made there in sacrificing road safety for enabling drivers to extend their hours to continue about their work. And then we're looking at a further, further reduction potentially in road safety with the driver licensing requirements. All that I can say for people listening is I would suggest that now more than ever is important that we carry out driver assessments and pre-driver starting assessments, making sure that drivers are safe to go on the road. The traffic commissioner and the DVSA, when they pull drivers over, will expect them to understand the rules. They'll expect them to know how to do driver walk-around checks. They'll expect them to be within the driver's hours limits. Now, if the standard of testing is reduced, it puts more onus back on operators to ensure that they've got safe drivers. So one of the recommendations we'll be passing on to our clients at Flagship Partners will be to ensure that they are thoroughly checking competency for drivers, because essentially the onus is going to be back on you as an operator. And if there's an increase in accidents or a reduction in road safety, then actually it's going to be the vehicle operator potentially who is risking their operator's license and their good repute as transport managers as well. So they're the recommendations from me. At the moment, it's guidance. If anyone's got any questions or would like to speak to me, I'm more than happy for them to get in touch. I hope this has been a useful podcast. And please do get in touch with me if you've got any questions, and I'll catch you again next week. Take care now.